Christ is risen.
The Lord is risen indeed. Alleluia.
I am the Good Shepherd. This morning's Gospel reading presents us with the best known and best loved of the 7 I am sayings in St. John's Gospel. I am the Good Shepherd. As if to emphasize how important this description is as part of his identity, Christ says this twice. Perhaps we have heard it so often, I am the Good Shepherd, that we have become too comfortable with this image. Yet, when we are being ordained, priests are told that we must always set the Good Shepherd before us as the pattern of our calling, caring for the people committed to our charge and joining with them in common witness, that the world may come to know God's glory and love. The image continues when we are told that the treasure is now entrusted to you is Christ's own flock. I was thinking about this morning's Gospel reading earlier last week and wondering about that role model of the Good Shepherd. I was asking myself whether the Good Shepherd had remained the pattern of my calling in priestly ministry, wondering whether this image was still a challenge to me and still a role model, or whether I had become too comfortable with the stained glass image of the Good Shepherd with his shining white robes and his fluffy white lambs. I was asking these questions, thinking about these challenges earlier last week as I went for my first vaccination, the first of 2 AstraZeneca vaccinations for the over 60s. This is the first of 2 jabs. I had heard all the conspiracy theories, all the complaints, and all the moaning. But it was a perfectly organized afternoon. We were guided into well-formed queues, moving at a leisurely but measured pace by welcoming and cheerful volunteers. Those volunteers shepherded us like gentle shepherds looking after their sheep carefully, making sure we were comfortable and in the right place. No lost sheep. This is what community is about. These are not the hired hands Christ warns about in the Gospel reading who may run away in the face of danger. These are volunteers doing this for no recognition, no financial gain, no personal benefit, perhaps at risk, however remotely, of being infected themselves. They are doing this knowing that hopefully in a few months' time this is going to be a better, safer society, collectively on the road to recovery, financially, socially, and in terms of physical and psychological health. The check-in process was as pleasant as checking in for a flight at an airport, complete with jokes about age and about being an Aston Villa supporter, and even bumping into an old school friend. It was putting into action those words in our epistle reading. Little children, let us love, not in word or speech, but in truth and action. The medical people were efficient, polite, professional, and friendly, all at the one time, and probably for an entire working day. My vaccine was administered by an army medic. For this pacifist, this was an experience of our defence forces at their best, defending people, saving lives, making the country safe, protecting us against what is effectively a foreign invader, making the country secure for future generations. It was a day filled with positive experiences, reminders of what community is about how volunteers are one of the bedrocks of society, about how we need government intervention in health programs to protect public health, about paying our taxes and how they ensure a more just society with access to healthcare on the basis of need rather than the ability to pay. In In this morning's reading from the Acts of the Apostles, St. Peter reminds the rulers and all present of the good for all in a good deed done to someone who was sick. Of course, I had bad reactions for the next day or two. I first had a chill, and then ran a temperature before feeling completely tired and drowsy. But I had been warned about the possibility, and given the choice between feeling like that for a day or contracting COVID-19 or becoming a super spreader, I know which I would opt for any day. The psalmist reminds us this morning, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. But where are the other sheep, the lost sheep, the sheep who will not listen? Take up for the vaccine offer for my age group is almost 90%, which sounds good until you realize this means there are 10% or more people, some who have no access to the internet or proper public transport, some who live in fear, and those who listen to the conspiracy theorists and the peddlers of fake news and far-right propaganda, mixed in with that lethal cocktail of extreme nationalism, populism, and racism. When I was being ordained as a deacon, I was entrusted with a special responsibility to search out the careless and the indifferent. At my ordination as a priest, I was told to search for God's children in the world's temptations and to guide them through its confusions. And so, I must continue to challenge the confusion created by conspiracy theorists who care less. To be Christ-like, to be like the Good Shepherd, I must not turn my back on them. Like Christ, I too must recognize that those who put their own delusions or false fears above the good of us all are lost sheep who are worth going after, whose health still matters, and whose good health is going to benefit all of us. At our ordination, priests are asked by the bishop, will you be faithful in visiting the sick, in caring for the poor and needy, and in helping the oppressed? But that task is being carried out every day at vaccination centres across this land. The people at those centres, volunteers, receptionists, security staff, traffic controllers, medical professionals, army personnel, are surely what we mean by holy people. And we should pray and give thanks for their gentle roles as shepherds of our people and for the promise of a healthy future that they hold out for everyone. Christ is risen.